Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Insha'Allah, my brothers and sisters of the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam are all well. Let's get on with it. This is CANDACE Owens. I'm sure you know her. If you don't, well, she's quite big of late, a right-wing black American firebrand political commentator who once hated Trump and the political right. Now this is what she said. Batshit crazy, antics of the Republican Tea Party. Adding, the good news is they will eventually die off, peacefully in their sleep, we hope. And then we can get right on with the obvious social change that needs to happen immediately. End quote. But then, something really strange happened on the road to Trump Tower. I wonder what it could be. Hang on. Let's not be too cynical. Let's reserve judgment. Hell no. If they're going to call us snowflakes for speaking the truth, if they're going to call us social justice warriors for standing up for the oppressed, if they're going to say we're virtue signaling when we speak up to right or wrong in our society, then I'm going to call them out for the stuff they do. Calm down, BLM. Aren't you forgetting that you're now a radical extremist, left-wing, uber-Marxist, neo-socialist, post-Trotskyite, anti-Western civilization terrorist group? No, we just want to end all oppression. Black, Muslim, all social classes. Yeah, sure, yeah. This is Majid, 2 private sessions Nawaz, a reformist Muslim radio presenter and former Islamist who advocates women's rights just as long as it's outside a strip club. Okay, that's a bad joke. Look, one step at a time, okay? He used to be an Islamist caliphate junkie, and now he's trying to fondle white girls in a place where girls walk around 99% naked performing sexual favours in exchange for money, so the brother has clearly made progress. This is Ayaan Hirsi Ali, an ex-Muslim that you can't have missed. Some people say that Donald Trump is her long-lost albino son. Actually, there is a resemblance. In views, at least. Every night she dreams about destroying Islam and then wakes up screaming, Allahu Akbar. I'm told she's getting treatment for that. She's actually done quite well for herself. Did you know she's the first ever successful asylum seeker to the Netherlands from a comfortable middle-class background and a consensual marriage? Yeah, she's actually the first ever. So well done, Ayaan. Now, check this out. 2 of the biggest terror incidents, or some of the biggest terror incidents of late since 9/11, actually cited CANDACE Owens and Hirsi Ali as their inspiration. So far, nobody has cited Majid as their inspiration, not even his own child. I know, that's a bit low. Anyway, the perpetrators of the Christchurch mosque shootings produced a manifesto in which he wrote that Owens had, quote, influenced him above all. According to journalist Robert Evans, it was, quote, possible, even likely, end quote, that the shooter was a fan of Owens, considering her rhetoric against Muslim immigrants. Anders Breivik, the far-right Norwegian who killed 77 people in 2011, had cited Hirsi Ali's work in his 1,500-page manifesto explaining his plans to commit a series of terrorist attacks across Norway. Now, Omar Bakri and Anjem Choudhury, these Muslim extremists, banned and arrested quite rightly for hate speech and incitement to violence. Why aren't these 2 banned and arrested for inciting violence too? Now, it wouldn't be unfair to say that these 3 are viewed with visceral hate and outspoken ridicule by their black and Muslim communities. Why? Well, the short answer is they bloody deserve it. I'm sorry, but that's the honest answer. In the business these guys are in, nobody makes you say or do the things you say and do. When you put things on record and publicise it, you're gonna get judged and hate. It just so happens that everything this lot have said is Bill Clinton shit. Okay, the sophisticated answer is, it's because they're considered race and religion traitors. When Trump stands next to CANDACE Owens, now that orange brother turns black very fast. And Majid Nawaz, Well, he's like a blackface version of Tommy Robinson at a Katie Hopkins hen night. Ideologically, I honestly can't tell them apart. But of course, they argue that they aren't doing anything of the sort. They say they speak the uncomfortable truth. It's funny how the right are all for truth on some things, but when it comes to addressing things like the 300 years of black slavery, Jim Crow, police brutality, systemic racism, yep, we're going to just ignore all that. Colonialism, rampant Islamophobia, military invasions, demonization of minorities, yep, that didn't happen. It's all a hoax. It's all a hoax, folks. It just didn't happen. If you think it all went down as it did, then you're a snowflake who's simply virtue signaling. I will show you how this defense of theirs is naive at best, and in fact damaging to the very cause they stand for. Now, Majid and Hirsi Ali are old ponies in the business of hate. As a consequence, they've actually set themselves up for life financially, yeah. So, well done, guys. But Candace has just begun, and she's using the same old playbook. Why reinvent the wheel, I suppose? Attack the blacks, attack the blacks, attack the Muslims, attack the Muslims. And your profile skyrockets to the moon, and it's ka-ching all the way to the bank. But what all three have in common is their unquestioning wholesale embrace of the Western civilization narrative as envisaged by the right and the alt-right, which essentially boils down to things are perfect as they are. Things are perfect as they are. The current Western setup is fair and judges without discrimination and according to one's talent. And the only thing holding you back is your personal lack of willingness. So, everything is subservient to you doing the right thing. Like Majid did. Like Hirsi and Candace did. These should be your examples, paragons of virtue, modern faces of resistance. I'm sure it wasn't easy to step up to the plate, with everything to gain and nothing to lose, and how to pick a cause. Oh my. Shall I go for climate change? Shall I go for world poverty? Or racial injustice, maybe? Corporate greed, maybe? Class divide? I don't know. I know. Let me make my last stand against the global elite. Yes, the party of Davos. Yes, those second-generation working-class immigrants of Bradford, Birmingham and London, of course. Who did you think I was talking about? Candace was in a similar pickle in America. The oppressed there were the oppression there was just getting out of hand. The subtle, insidious oppression of white America by the blacks. In fact, it was so insidious that only Candace could see it. So now, of course, she gives voice to the voiceless, defends the undefended and the marginalized of the alt-right.
Victim mentality is not cool. I don't know why people like being oppressed. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. I love oppression. We're oppressed. 400 years of slavery, Jim Crow, which, by the way, none of you guys lived through. Your grandparents did, and it's embarrassing that you utilize their history. You utilize their history, and you come in here with more emotion than they ever had when they were living through it. More emotion.
Multiple cases now, and it's beyond any level of doubt that there's a disproportionate number of British Muslims involved in grooming gangs against underage white girls.
So the argument goes something like this. I hope all you ragged yet ambitious minorities are all ears, guys, especially the ones just outside the borders of Europe, ready to board that truck or boat and cross over into the lands of milk and honey. So number one, please play the good minority citizen, okay? How? You ask me, in 100 languages and dialects that simply wash over my head. Bloody hell, it's like the UN in here. Well, my dear immigrant brothers, Sharif, Ungulu and Mubarak, and prospective neighbours and non-taxpayers, good luck, by the way, in your crossing. Try to not die out there, okay? I hear it's very dangerous, so stay safe, please. And when you finally make it to London, give me a ring. and I'll send an Uber over or something. So come here. Don't you ever question Western exceptionalism. That's a good one for starters, you know. And remember, the West dominates today in 2020 purely and only through its historical hard work and that thing called the Enlightenment. You might have heard of it, and its ethical Christian heritage. Okay, you got that? Okay, good. Ungulu? So it doesn't have slavery and genocide on its record of misdeeds. That's right. Don't you dare mention it, yeah? I'm looking at you, Mubarak. You got a mouth on you, boy. It was the Magna Carta what done it, and then you'll be all right. On the night, my good immigrant. Now go and make me a cup of chai, my little char boy. And it is this superiority complex at the heart of the Western system that must be preserved at all cost. The problem is, people like Majid Nawaz, CANDACE Owens and Hirsi Ali do not just and simply flaunt "the West is the best" slogan on their t-shirts and leave it at that. Oh, no, 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 no.
Surely you agree theocracy's wrong. Surely.
Do I need to? Do I need to agree that it is wrong?
Let me ask a question
you want
here.
me to agree that it is wrong?
This isn't about what I want and what you want, Sarah. No,
excuse me, but you are trying to undermine everything that I'm saying.
If that is all they did, if they didn't try to enforce their views on other Muslims using the tactics of the far right, demonization, gross generalization, do you know what would have happened? Well, exactly nothing. Nothing would have happened. None of us would have even heard about these clowns.
I wish that those young girls had seen justice as fast as the judge served Tommy Robinson justice in this case. Islam today needs to be reformed. We have to, as Muslims, open up this conversation and accept what isn't accepted at the moment, that not everything he did should be emulated today.
Oh, he's just perfect.
That's what I say, yeah.
Immaculate. National socialism without raising the subject of Hitler. If you take history in this country and the rest of the West, you get to learn a lot about Hitler. A meaningful criticism of Islamism or the Medina agenda and resonate with young people without talking about the Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, the numbers are in, okay? Police brutality is not an issue.
In that Quranic passage that I read to you, I'm saying it's wrong, it must be abandoned. What do you think?
The problem people have with them is not that they speak the truth as they claim, because that is highly questionable. Correction, highly laughable in and of itself, but they do so by attacking and at the expense and cost of their own respective communities. CANDACE Owens and the rest of you, I've got news for you. It is precisely because you attack your own community that they chose you. It is precisely because you are black that they selected you. It is precisely because of your ethnicity that you were picked. Why can't you see this? It is precisely because of your skin color that you were targeted. Don't think for 1 second that they picked you because they appreciate your God-given talent. Your heart, your sweet heart, no, or your pristine integrity, or because you're a hard-working black girl. No, no, no. Dismiss that. You were personally hand-picked, are being groomed now, presently, and handsomely rewarded, precisely because you have no heart, precisely because you have no principles, precisely because you have a price and are willing to play the role of the good informer, a character you must play for the American Republican base, the evangelical base, and the white culture radicals, the extremists, if you want to keep earning the bucks and living your dream. You think if you were white, CANDACE, Majid and Hirsi, you think if you were white, your talent and integrity of purpose would have gotten you to the position you're in today? Don't make me laugh. They wouldn't have looked twice at you, my friends. You paid for your role in life with your principles. That was your exchange, and you paid it willingly, my friends. What's that, Candace? You're against positive discrimination and playing the race card? As long as only you benefit from it? Right, got you. Good one, girl. Because this trope, this political trope, requires an insider, an informer, a black person, a Muslim, a minority to break rank and rat on their own community for it to be maximally effective as a political weapon. Now, I don't know if you've watched Fox News because it is almost entirely built on this cynical trope. Fox is the last major media bastion of white Christian America. The people who watch Fox still cling on to the fast-dying hope that one day they will be able to go back to the white America of the 40s and the 50s. And Fox News gladly obliges them, providing for them the media and cultural space to vent all their unfashionable bigotry. So you have the main cast that is all pretty and white, blonde hair, short skirts, long legs, and then the creepy old white men/perverts with misogynistic, old-fashioned racial biases. Clearly not a projection of their idea of the perfect society. And then you have an ensemble of a supporting black cast who get brought in periodically like nodding sheep into the slaughterhouse. And bless them, they look so proud in their church clothes and thoroughly honoured, sat there in the Fox studio on national cable network television thinking they finally made it in life, the American dream realised at last, sitting opposite bleach blondes and cranky old constipated dinosaurs who are patting your head and saying, good black boy, atta, atta. Not too often or hogging too much screen time, mind you. There is a fine balance after all. I mean, we don't want to become CNN. White America wouldn't be able to stomach that. They come in as mostly talking heads to do one thing and one thing only, without exception, or frankly, they just wouldn't be there to begin with, to basically be more racist and abusive of their own communities than the whites could ever get away with, to simply and passionately denigrate and debase their own communities, while the white audience at home lap it all up and feel themselves vindicated in all their prejudices. It's almost like the kick they got from watching the old minstrel shows. Because if blacks hate on blacks, that's not racism, folks. By the way, the black community is terrible. Don't take my word for it. I'm white. I'm bound to be racist. But hey, here's a black guy who's saying the exact same thing as you're thinking. Yeah, you're right. My ghetto blacks are crazy. See, I told you so. The same thing with the bad Muslims. These filthy Muslims are barbarians. But wait, I'm clearly Islamophobic. Here's a former ex-Muslim who thinks the same. Let us welcome Hirsi Ali, everybody, and pretend we care about a fake story for the millionth time. Now do you believe me that these Muslims are animals without any virtue? Did someone say that the right don't virtue signal? Good morning, America. And the Fox viewers, I've got a black guy here sat by me. How many of y'all got a black guy literally sat 5 centimeters away from you? Precisely. Y'all ought to be ashamed of yourself. Now, the gentleman is here to rat on his own brother, but ignore that bit. His skin's black. That's gotta count for something, right? Am I good now? Ultimately, it is about power, though. Isn't it always? Having power means that the cultural and status quo beneficiaries, the people in charge of the soul and spirit of the Western narrative and civilization, the cultural rhythm and flavour of Western political discourse, the old guard and the vested interests get to protect the advantages they have historically enjoyed and already have. It means they get to keep the system that suits them. A system shaped and optimized to help protect and enhance their narrative and goals in life. It cuts across literally everything. Everything: business, economic policy, media culture, academia, history, politics, and social policy. So at the top, on the whole, now this is a crude measurement, but on the whole, so at the top you have the white, Judeo-Christian, rich, educated, cultured male. At the very bottom is the antithesis of the former. So at the bottom you have the black, non-Christian / Christian, poor, uneducated female. Now, to preserve the system that advantages them so much, they must hold on to power, a purely selfish act. The problem is they're in a democratic system, at least on paper. Now, in this political maneuvering, the blacks, minorities, and Muslims are an inconvenience of fate, a liberal enlightenment hangover. To maintain a semblance of liberty and the values they supposedly stand for, they must tolerate these people, these minorities, on paper at least, lip service. But more than that, they must use these minorities to their advantage without upsetting the apple cart. So you will hear them saying implicitly / explicitly that they are for controlled immigration, tier 1 immigration.
Fact that the inflow of all this cheap immigrant labor hurts Americans who actually will do those jobs that Durbin turns his nose up at.
The right immigration, European Christian immigration.
There are 1.6 billion Muslims in the world. When you say, why do we need them, what do you mean?
No. I mean, why does our country need them? The point is, America is not a battered woman's shelter. Immigration policy, as I describe in the book, it ought to be designed to make the lives of Americans better.
Implied, this will be implied, they're against multiculturalism, political correctness, all that has failed, they will say. This is very common.
Signing an immigration act very soon. It's going to be based on merit. It's going to be very strong. We're going to work on DACA because we...
Now, all these filters are not just racism masquerading as sensible border policy and common sense notions, but at the heart of these policies is a strategy that expressly looks to ensure the survival of the system and the status quo narrative. Now, people like Majid Nawaz and CANDACE Owens are either naive fools who don't realize that they are merely pawns being used in the wider game of power, control, and subjugation, or they do know, but are simply willing to play the part for short-term personal enrichment and look the other way. But both options are not exactly good. One makes them stupid. The other, well, they're selling their services for money, so you decide what to call that. But actually, I do wonder sometimes, especially sat on the toilet, what lies at the heart of the decision of people like them to, in effect, sell your own brother and sister down the river so that you can personally get ahead in life. Why am I talking like this? I don't know. Can it just be about the money? Yes, it can, I suppose. But I also think that there may be something else at play here, something not so tangible, a deeper pathology. I actually think that people like them are like, don't laugh, okay, racial transgenders. Look, hear me out. I will explain. You know how you get someone born a male, like me, but they feel like a female through and through, unlike me, so they end up dressing up as a woman. I think something similar is going on here. I actually think CANDACE, Majid, and Hirsi are racial trans and cross-dressers. Now, these guys were born black and Muslim, but they feel they're in the wrong skin or cultural identity. It could be A biocultural reaction to the slave colonial era, maybe? An unconscious affirmation to escape the old slave-master dichotomy, where, although the old slave order has ended, the former slaves are saddled by an inferiority complex, so they unconsciously try and emulate their older masters. Now, they spend the rest of their lives trying to distinguish themselves from their original communities that remind them of their historical status. Now, Majid was married to an Asian, I presume Pakistani Muslim. Now he's married to a white lady. Hirsi Ali was married to a black Muslim Somali. And now she's married to a white neocon gentleman. CANDACE Owens is married to a white gentleman too. Do you know what? I don't see a pattern there, or anything like an unconscious bias or anything. Is it that they're all straight and happily married? Is that what you're looking for? I'm sorry, I'm out. I don't know. I can't see a pattern. And this yearning for separation, the self-loathing manifests itself and extends out to their respective communities in an overcompensatory fashion. And yes, black people can be racist to blacks. Ex-Muslims can be Islamophobic to Muslims. At the end of the day, they are attacking the idea of blackness and the idea of Muslimness. The skin color and the Islamic rituals are just symbols of that idea. These people don't necessarily feel an aversion to black skin or religion per se, but rather the idea of blackness and the idea of Muslimness. Now, ultimately, this tactic by the old order will fail, and the characters like Majid, Candace, and Hirsi will fade into history, or if that, go down in history as co-conspirators to the old guard. If that, people eventually see through a corrupt, highly cynical system that is rigged, and in the end, they make a stand and replace the old order. So yes, they may enrich themselves, fuel their careers in the short run, but in the end, they must realize that everything they're doing to defend the system of their paymasters, every time they betray the principles of humanity and common decency, they are actually bringing closer its own demise. Like a new owner whom enters a new house with old wallpaper and dodgy paintwork, terrible taste in furnishing, the West's furnishing and wallpaper have become outdated and unfit for the new generation and the new owners of the house. It is time to throw away the old trimmings. It is time for refurbishing the house of the West so that it better reflects its new occupiers. Thank you for watching. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to end it there. It's been a long one, but I hope inshallah you've enjoyed it and found it informative. Make sure you send a like, subscribe to and share my channel for more content like this. Take care, stay safe, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.